The first time Elianna Rhodes looked out of the car window in South Korea, she realized her life had already changed forever. The streets were quiet, clean, and unfamiliar. The sky looked different. Nothing smelled like home. At 15, she had crossed the world not because she wanted to, but because she had nowhere else to go. She had lost the only person who ever loved her fully, and now she was about to live with a father she had never met. This is a soft romantic high school story set in an elite international academy in South Korea, where grief, family tension, and quiet love slowly collide. A story of a girl learning where she belongs, and a boy who notices her when the world does not. Elianna Rhodes grew up with only her mother, Naomi Rhodes. Naomi was a strong black woman who raised her daughter alone and made sure Elianna never felt unloved. To Elianna, her mother was everything: parent, protector, and best friend. There was never a father in their home, and as a child, Elianna learned not to ask. Whenever the topic came close, her mother's voice would tighten, and her eyes would grow distant. Elianna understood, even without words, that it was a painful subject. Years earlier, while Naomi was in college, she met a white man named Daniel Whitmore. He was visiting the city for work, and they met through mutual friends. What started as friendship slowly turned into something deeper. Daniel was kind, charming, and attentive at first. Naomi believed it was love. For a while it felt real, but when she became pregnant, everything changed. Naomi discovered that Daniel already had another woman in his life back in South Korea, where he resides and runs a big company. He had not been honest from the beginning. Though Daniel wanted to be involved when he learned about the pregnancy, Naomi felt betrayed and deeply hurt. To her, his apology came too late. Carrying anger, shame, and disappointment, she shut him out completely and refused to let him into her or her child's life. From that moment on, Naomi decided she would raise Elianna alone. She moved cities often, taking different jobs, never staying long enough to build deep connections. It was always just the two of them. Elianna learned to rely on her mother for everything. She trusted her completely and followed her guidance without question. Her childhood was simple, quiet, and centered around survival and love. What Elianna did not know was that her mother had been fighting a serious illness for years. Naomi suffered from advanced lupus, an autoimmune disease that slowly weakened her body over time. The illness affected her heart and kidneys, but she hid it carefully. She did not want Elianna to grow up afraid. She worked through pain, exhaustion, and hospital visits, always smiling in front of her daughter. As Elianna entered her teenage years, the illness grew worse. Naomi's body became weaker, and doctors warned her that time was no longer on her side. Knowing she could not secure Elianna's future alone, Naomi made a difficult decision. With fear and humility, she reached out to Daniel Whitmore. She explained everything: the illness, the years of silence, and her regret. Daniel had never stopped wanting to be part of his daughter's life, but he had respected Naomi's decision and stayed away. When he heard the truth, he immediately stepped forward. He apologized again, not only with words but with actions. Over time, Naomi softened. She forgave him, not for herself, but for Elianna. She wanted peace before she died, and she wanted to know her daughter would be safe. After Naomi passed away, 15-year-old Elianna was left alone in the world. Following her mother's final arrangements, she traveled to South Korea to live with her father. Carrying grief, fear, and uncertainty, Elianna stepped into a new life she never asked for, one that would soon lead her to an elite international school, deep family tension, and a quiet boy next door named Yoon Taemin. Elianna arrived at her father's house on a quiet evening. The building was large, modern, and carefully kept, but it did not feel warm. Her father, Daniel Whitmore, welcomed her with a gentle hug that felt unsure, like a man afraid of doing the wrong thing. He was sincere, but the tension in the house was impossible to ignore. His wife, Margaret Whitmore, stood at a distance, her smile polite but cold. Her eyes studied Elianna carefully, as if measuring how much space she would take in their lives. Daniel had 3 children with his wife. His first child, Sophia Whitmore, was 17 years old and almost rounding up with high school, only 2 years older than Elianna. She was confident, well-spoken, and already deeply respected, both at home and in school. The younger boys, Lucas and Ethan, were 12 and 9. They were quieter and mostly kept to themselves, watching everything without saying much. From the very first night, Elianna understood that she was not truly welcome. She was a reminder of a past the family wanted buried. Life in the house was cold and distant. Margaret treated Elianna with careful hostility, always polite in front of Daniel but distant when he was not around. Sophia, however, did not hide her resentment. She saw Elianna as a threat, someone who could take her place, her attention, and even her school reputation. The fact that Elianna would soon attend the same elite international academy made her anger deeper. To Sophia, it felt like her safe world was being invaded. Alone in a foreign country, living in a house that did not feel like home, Elianna became quieter. She carried her grief silently, missing her mother every day. She spoke less, observed more, and kept her emotions tightly guarded. She told herself she would survive this new life, not because she wanted to, but because her mother had sacrificed everything to give her a chance. It was during those quiet days that Elianna first noticed the boy next door. From her bedroom window, she often saw him standing on his balcony across the fence. He was tall, calm, and always seemed lost in thought. He never made noise or tried to draw attention. Sometimes, their eyes met by accident. One evening, as Elianna stepped outside briefly, he gave a small wave. "Hi," he said gently. Elianna looked at him but said nothing. She turned away and went back inside. It was not rudeness, it was pain. She was exhausted from starting over, from explaining herself, from pretending she was fine. Yoon Taemin watched her walk away, confused. No one had ever ignored him before. That quiet rejection stayed with him, replaying in his mind more than he expected. A few days later, Daniel finally found the courage to speak to his daughter properly. He knocked on her door one evening and waited. "Elianna," he said softly, "may I come in?" She nodded, sitting on her bed with her hands folded. He sat across from her, his shoulders heavy. "I know I can never replace your mother," he said. "And I know I hurt her deeply. I hurt you too, even if you didn't know me. I don't expect forgiveness overnight, but I want to earn a place in your life. I want you to be happy here." Elianna looked down. Her voice was quiet. "I don't know how to forgive someone I never knew." Daniel swallowed hard. "Then let me start by being here now," he said. "I promise I'll try. Every day." For the first time since arriving, Elianna felt something soften inside her. She did not respond much, but she listened. A week later, Daniel returned home earlier than usual, holding documents in his hand. He sat with Elianna and explained that she had been enrolled in Hanil Crest International Academy, the same elite school Sophia attended. Elianna had only 2 years left before university, and the school would prepare her for higher education. Everything had been arranged carefully. Sophia's reaction was immediate and cold. She smiled sweetly in front of her father, but later cornered Elianna in the hallway. "Don't get comfortable," she said calmly. "You don't belong here. And you won't belong at my school either." Elianna said nothing, but she understood the message. Her first day at school was overwhelming. The halls were wide, the students confident and polished. Everyone seemed to know where they belonged. Elianna felt small and out of place. She missed her friends back home, especially the small singing group she had shared with them, laughing, practicing harmonies, dreaming freely. Here, no one knew her. At lunch, she sat alone, her thoughts heavy. Just when she believed she would stay invisible forever, 2 students approached her. They were twins, a girl and a boy. "Hi," the girl said with a warm smile. "I'm Mira." "And I'm Minjae," her brother added. "We noticed your hair. It's really beautiful." Elianna hesitated, then smiled softly. "Thank you. You can sit with us," Mira said kindly. "We're new here too, just not today." For the first time since her mother's death, Elianna felt a small sense of warmth. Lunch hour at Hanil Crest International Academy was always loud, but the noise shifted the moment Yoon Taemin walked into the cafeteria. Conversations softened, heads turned, and eyes followed him without effort. Girls watched him quietly, some whispering, some pretending not to stare. Even the boys noticed him, giving nods of respect or moving aside without thinking. Yoon Taemin was used to it. Attention followed him everywhere, yet it never truly reached him. As he walked forward with his tray, his steps slowed. His eyes stopped at a familiar figure sitting near the window. She was laughing softly with 2 students, a boy and a girl who looked alike. Yoon Taemin recognized her immediately. She was the girl from the balcony, the one who had ignored him, the rude girl, as his mind jokingly called her, though something about her calm presence made the word feel unfair. Yoon Taemin was the most admired student at Hanel Crest. He ranked at the top of his class, excelled in sports, and carried himself with quiet confidence. Teachers trusted him. Students admired him. On the surface, his life looked perfect. But at home, perfection came with a price. His parents were successful and demanding. Affection was rare. Praise came only with achievement. His days were carefully scheduled. School, private lessons, extracurriculars, then long nights of studying. Rest was a luxury. Emotion was a weakness. No one asked him what he wanted. He had learned to smile, perform, and stay distant. Deep down, Yoon Taemin felt lonely. He was valued for results, not for who he was. Friendships stayed shallow. Real connection felt unfamiliar. Then, Elianna Rhodes arrived. She did not admire him. She did not chase attention. She carried her pain quietly and kept her distance. When he greeted her, she walked away. That moment stayed with him, not because it hurt his pride, but because it was real. For the first time, someone saw him and chose not to care. Before he could think twice, Yoon Taemin did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He walked straight toward her table. The cafeteria went quiet. "Hi," he said calmly. "I am your neighbor. Do you remember me?" Elianna looked up, her expression guarded. In that moment, she felt exposed. Everyone was watching. To her, it felt like he was drawing attention to her on purpose. "Yes, I remember," she said. "But I'm not interested in whatever you have to say." The twins froze. Yoon Taemin blinked. "I wasn't trying to," he began. Elianna stood up. "Please don't do this again." She turned to the twins. "It was nice meeting you." Then she walked away. The cafeteria erupted into whispers. No one had ever dismissed Yoon Taemin like that. He stood there, stunned, not embarrassed, but deeply intrigued. For the rest of the day, her face stayed in his mind. Elianna's first day ended quietly. Classes passed in a blur. She focused, listened, and avoided attention. But back at home, Sophia noticed something that made her blood boil. She heard the whispers. She saw the looks. The new girl had caught Yoon Taemin's attention in one day. Attention Sophia had never received despite years at the school. That night, Yoon Taemin stood on his balcony longer than usual. He watched the empty space across from him, waiting. When Elianna finally stepped out, he lifted his hand and waved. She hesitated, then gave a small wave back. From that day on, it became a habit. "Hi," he said each evening. Sometimes she answered. Sometimes she didn't, but slowly she stopped avoiding him. Their conversations were small at first. Simple greetings, short questions, quiet moments. In school, they crossed paths in the library, in hallways, during study sessions. Elianna didn't treat him like a star. She spoke to him like a normal person. That alone made him feel at ease. Over time, they began sitting together during study periods. When his driver was late, Yoon Taemin walked home with her. Their families attended the same school events. Their conversations grew deeper. Elianna spoke about missing home and her mother. Yoon Taemin spoke about pressure and loneliness. No rush. No drama. Just understanding. People noticed. By the end of the school term, Elianna had found her place. She ranked high academically and formed a small singing group with the twins. Her confidence grew. Her presence became known. Sophia watched it all with growing anger. The attention she once owned was slipping away. Feeling invisible and threatened, she decided she would not stay silent. As Elianna began to settle into school life, Sophia's anger turned into action. Quietly and carefully, she started spreading rumors. At first, they were small. Whispers about Elianna getting special treatment because of her father, and rumors that questioned her late mother's character. Then, the rumors grew worse. Fake stories moved through group chats, twisting her kindness into something suspicious. Elianna felt exposed. Eyes followed her again, but this time they were cold. Laughter stopped when she entered a room. Her singing group was mocked. On one painful afternoon, a group of students confronted her in the hallway, mocking her accent and questioning why she was even there. That was when Yoon Taemin stepped in. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't cause a scene. He simply stood between them and Elianna. "That's enough," he said calmly. His presence alone stopped them. Later that day, Yoon Taemin quietly reported what he had seen. Messages were reviewed. Stories were compared. The truth came out. The rumors had started with Sophia. When the school called the family in, Sophia stood exposed. She expected Elianna to stay silent. Instead, Elianna spoke. "She's my sister," Elianna said softly. She was hurt. "I don't want her punished. I just want all this to stop." The room fell silent. Sophia looked at her in disbelief. That night at home, Elianna knocked on Sophia's door. "I don't hate you," she said honestly. "I never came to take your place. I just want peace. I want a family. That's all my mother wanted for me." Sophia broke down. For the first time, she admitted how afraid she had been, afraid of losing attention, love, and control. Slowly, the walls between them began to fall. Days passed. Tension softened. Small gestures replaced silence. Not long after, Elianna found herself alone with Margaret one afternoon when her stepmother slipped on the stairs. Elianna reacted quickly, helping her and calling for help. Margaret was shaken, but safe. From that day on, her tone changed. Gratitude turned into respect. Respect into warmth. Peace returned to the household. Daniel watched it all quietly, his heart full. For the first time, his home felt complete. The family dinners grew warmer. Laughter returned, and Elianna finally felt like she belonged. As peace returned to Elianna's life, her bond with Yoon Taemin grew naturally. There was no rush and no pressure. They spent time studying together, walking home side by side, and sharing quiet moments on their balconies. Their conversations became deeper. They laughed more. They trusted each other. Yoon Taemin admired Elianna's strength and kindness. Elianna admired his calm presence and the way he listened. Love did not arrive loudly. It settled gently between them. At school, things slowly became easier for everyone. Elianna was respected for her intelligence and her talent. Yoon Taemin remained admired, but he was no longer distant. Sophia focused on her own growth, no longer threatened by Elianna's presence. The twins continued their friendship, and their small singing group became known for school events. Time passed, and graduation came quietly. Standing in her uniform on that final day, Elianna thought about her mother and everything she had lost and gained. Her father watched her with pride. He had already made arrangements for her future. She gained admission into a top university in the United States to study communications and international studies. Yoon Taemin chose to study medicine at a top university in South Korea. It was a difficult decision, but a meaningful one. They talked about it late into the night, sitting across from each other. "We will grow first," Yoon Taemin said softly. "Then we will meet again." They promised to support each other, even from afar. The years that followed were busy and challenging. They focused on their studies, building their futures step by step. Sophia also continued her education, studying business administration, preparing for a life she could finally call her own. 5 years later, Elianna returned to South Korea for a school reunion. The visit also coincided with Sophia's wedding. When Elianna arrived, she looked confident, graceful, and radiant. Yoon Taemin saw her from across the room. His breath caught. She was still Elianna, still calm, still warm, but stronger. When their eyes met, years of distance disappeared in a moment. At the wedding, they talked like no time had passed. They laughed, shared memories, and danced slowly under soft lights. Their connection had never faded. It had only matured. Elianna had found her grace. She was no longer the grieving girl who arrived with a suitcase and fear. She had grown into herself. Later that evening, away from the noise and celebration, Yoon Taemin finally spoke. "I never stopped thinking about you," he said quietly. "Not a single year." Elianna looked at him, surprised but calm. "I tried to move on," he continued. I focused on school, on becoming who I was supposed to be. But every time something good happened, I wanted to tell you first. Her eyes softened. I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid that if I said it out loud, I would lose you again. Elianna stepped closer. You didn't lose me. He looked at her then, really looked at her. I loved you, he said. I still do. The silence between them was gentle, not heavy. Elianna reached for his hand. I grew too, she said softly. And I carried you with me. Yoon Taemin leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their kiss was soft and unhurried, full of years, patience, and promise. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just real. As they pulled apart, Elianna smiled. This time, she said, we choose each other, and under the warm lights of family, forgiveness, and love, their story found its ending, not in loss, but in return.
Hello, amazing family. Thank you for watching that story. It's your girl Nini again this week. Thank you for watching that story. I noticed more of you like high school stories, so that's why I am trying my best to bring it more to my channel. Thank you for watching that story. And please, if you are new here and have not subscribed, please do subscribe and stay tuned for more story. See you all next week. I love you all.